mapping the self, faces, feelings, and the it's me circuit. To understand why I'm dead can feel true, we have to follow the wiring that quietly tags life as ours. There isn't a single self-center. The brain builds me, the way a city builds rush hour. Many routes, constant negotiation, and when one intersection goes down, the traffic pattern changes everywhere. Faces, feelings, body maps, value signals. Each adds a piece to the sense that this heartbeat belongs to someone who's here. Start with the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the VMPFC. It sits low and forward, acting like a concierge for meaning, triaging signals and asking, does this matter for me? It assigns value, nudges attention, and links choices to feelings. Damage or dampening here doesn't erase facts. It strips events of personal weight. Things look the same, but don't land. If your value tagging slips, even hunger feels theoretical. Meanwhile, the insula keeps a live feed from inside the body. Tiny shifts in heartbeat, breath, gut pressure, signals you rarely notice, are stitched into a background hum that says, I'm in here. That's interoception. It isn't just raw sensation, it's integrated feeling. Working with the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, the insula turns fluctuating body data into a sense of presence, like a dimmer switch for aliveness. When this loop blunts, emotions flatten, and the body becomes a distant apartment you used to rent. The limbic system, amygdala, hippocampus, and friends, adds effect to perception. A loved one's face isn't just geometry, it's warmth, urgency, history. The amygdala flags salience, the hippocampus situates it in time. Together, they speed up recognition with a quiet emotional echo. If that echo fades, familiarity turns neutral. You can still identify a person, but the feeling that makes them theirs doesn't arrive. That gap pushes cognition to invent stories to close it. Shift to the parietal cortex and the temporoparietal junction, the TPJ. This region helps map the body in space and sets the vantage point of self. It reconciles what the eyes see, what the inner ear senses, and what the body predicts. The TPJ is why your hand feels like yours, and why your viewpoint follows your head, not the ceiling fan. Lesions or seizures here can distort ownership and perspective. Arms become foreign, rooms tilt, presence drifts. When ownership loosens, identity starts to float. These systems don't work in isolation. They talk in loops. The VMPFC and insula coordinate value and interoception. Does the body's thud mean hunger, fear, or nothing? The amygdala and visual cortex co-tune faces. Does this pattern of light carry emotional weight? The TPJ and insula cross-check ownership. Does this sensation belong to this body? All of it converges into a compact verdict that usually never needs words. It's me, they're them, this matters. Break any link, and the verdict gets noisy. If the emotional echo is missing but recognition persists, you might conclude a loved one is an imposter. If interoceptive tone drops while reasoning stays intact, you might report feeling unreal, like a character operating a machine. Push the same fault lines further, layer severe depression, neurological injury, or both, and the aliveness tag can drop so low that the brain reaches for a hard explanation. Maybe I'm dead. Here's a micro moment that shows the machinery. A patient lifts a spoon of soup. The insula should register warmth, weight, smell. The VMPFC should nudge. This will comfort you. The amygdala should add a thread of safety tied to childhood kitchens. The TPJ should confirm ownership. Hand, mouth, swallow. If those signals arrive thin, warmth without value, smell without history, the act becomes hollow. The thought that follows tries to match the feeling. Corpses don't taste. That fits. Another path runs through prediction. The brain constantly forecasts what the next second should feel like. When prediction error spikes, what I felt didn't match what I expected. Systems higher up adjust beliefs to reduce the mismatch. If your baseline effect is dark and flat, and your body cues are faint, the easiest belief that fits the data may be annihilation. Nothing explains everything when every signal is muted. Notice what nobody in these scenarios lacks: intelligence. Patients with coded features can do arithmetic, name capitals, recall birthdays. The breakdown isn't knowledge, it's integration. The circuits that weld sensation to significance, ownership to effect, have slipped. And the brain, being story-driven, backfills the gap with the most coherent narrative available to the current chemistry and wiring. Right hemisphere networks show up often in these distortions, especially where body, self, and emotion meet. The right insula, right parietal areas, and right frontal valuation circuits tend to anchor a global, embodied sense of presence. When injuries or hypoperfusion lean rightward, self-maps wobble. Patients may deny a limb, misplace ownership, or feel detached from the living scene, setting the stage for extreme interpretations. This is why arguing facts rarely works at the peak of the syndrome. You can't fix a missing heartbeat of salience with a spreadsheet. You have to restore the signal. When the VMPFC starts valuing again, when the insula's hum returns, when the amygdala's quiet warmth lights familiar faces, the belief loosens not because a syllogism beat it, but because the world feels like it belongs again. Which means Cotard isn't an alien belief beamed in. It's a last-ditch map drawn when the compass fails. And the compass is a network: faces, feelings, ownership, value. Usually invisible, until it isn't. Capgras, DPDR, Cotard, the mistagging family. Line up 3 lives on a hospital corridor, and you'll see the same machinery fail in different ways. The first patient recognizes his wife's face perfectly, but says she's an imposter. The second says, "I know this is my hand, but it feels like a glove I'm wearing." The third won't touch the breakfast tray because corpses don't eat. 3 beliefs, 1 theme. The emotional tag that makes people, bodies, and moments feel real has slipped, and cognition rushes in to fill the silence. Start with Capgras. It's painfully specific. Visual recognition stays intact while the emotional echo goes missing. The husband looks at his partner and sees every contour he's learned for decades. But the amygdala-powered warmth, the quick visceral yes, doesn't arrive. The brain hates mismatches, so it patches the gap with the cleanest story. She looks like my wife but isn't. She's an imposter. He isn't being theatrical. He's solving a problem. Why does the familiar feel blank? Now step to Depersonalization-Derealization, DPDR. Here, insight is preserved. People say things like, "I know I'm real, but I don't feel real," or "The street looks normal, but it's like a set." The difference is conviction. DPDR lives upstream of delusion. The interoceptive tone is dim, time feels fogged, emotions are flattened, but the person knows the map is off. They don't invent imposters. They describe a filter that won't lift. It's distressing, not psychotic. Then there's Cotard, the extreme end of the same spectrum. The body feels far, the world feels thinned, mood is crushed, and the cognitive patch hardens into a belief. I'm dead, I'm empty, I've ceased to exist. Where Capgras targets others and DPDR targets the feel of experience, Cotard turns the mistag inward and total. The self, the organs, the worth of breath, negated. Notice the shared engine, perceptual affective mismatch. In Capgras, face perception fires without emotional salience, so the story becomes imposter. In DPDR, bodily and emotional salience drop globally, but reality testing holds, so the story becomes unreal, but I know it's me. In Cotard, salience collapses under severe depression or neurological hits, and the story becomes non-existence. The brain is doing belief repair, reducing prediction error by choosing an explanation that fits the missing feeling. There's a right hemisphere flavor across these syndromes. Damage, seizures, or hypoperfusion in right frontal, insular, and parietal regions show up often in misidentification. That side anchors embodied presence, the felt half of recognition. When its contribution goes quiet, meaning gets visual but not visceral. Things look right and feel wrong. Here's a micro-story to feel the gradient. A daughter walks in. In Capgras, her father smiles, then freezes. He recognizes the features, but feels nothing. "Who sent you?" he asks. In DPDR, a young man hugs his sister and says softly, "I know this is you. It's just like I'm behind glass." In Cotard, a woman stares past her mother and murmurs, "You don't need to visit the dead." The same family is mistagged 3 ways. Other, experience, self. Why does one person land in DPDR, while another slides into Cotard? Load matters. Severe melancholic depression adds nihilistic priors. Expectations that nothing will matter, nothing will move. Neurological insults add noise and dropouts to the self-network. Social isolation strips away corrective feedback. If you're already starved of sleep, light, food, and touch, the absence of aliveness feels like the truth, not a symptom. DPDR can tip into delusion when these forces stack and insight phrase. What nobody knew in the waiting room is that arguing content misses the process. Telling a Capgras patient, "Look, it's your wife," won't restore the missing warmth. Telling a DPDR sufferer, "You're fine," won't raise interoceptive tone. Telling a Cotard patient, "You're alive," won't flip valuation back on. Until the circuits that tag salience, ownership, and value come back online, the belief sits like reinforced concrete. There's also a time axis. Many Cotard cases start with a DPDR-like phase, detached, flat, unreal. As depression deepens or a neurological event hits, the need to resolve the mismatch increases. The brain escalates from "it feels wrong" to "it is wrong," then to "I am gone." Capgras can appear in the same story, especially when right hemisphere dysfunction skews face effect integration. Families sometimes hear both. "You're not my mother," and later, "I don't exist." It's not inconsistency. It's one system failing at multiple nodes. A quick detour through predictive processing makes this less mysterious. The brain forecasts how the next moment should feel. When it consistently gets a dull, cold world instead of the expected warm one, it can adjust the bottom-up feelings or adjust the top-down belief. If it can't pull the feelings up, because those circuits are stunned, it pushes the belief down. Nothingness, imposters, death. The explanation reduces error, even if it costs reality. Stakes are human. Capgras breeds fear, and often aggression toward loved ones mistaken for doubles. DPDR breeds panic and hopelessness, a dread that life will stay grey. Cotard breeds self-neglect, starvation, suicide risk. The sooner clinicians recognize the family resemblance, a Salience system gone quiet, the faster they can aim treatment at the circuitry rather than wrestling with the story. Meanwhile, something else is often happening. Brief moments when the tag flickers back. A Capgras patient hears a laugh and recognizes it. A DPDR sufferer feels a sudden wave of warmth. A Cotard patient tastes sweetness and hesitates. These glints matter. They're the cracks where treatment wedges in: medication, sleep, light, nutrition, ECT therapy. Anything that lets the aliveness signal rise long enough to make a truer story possible. And when the signal returns, the beliefs tend to melt the way frost does. Not with debate, but with heat. Triggers, depression, neurology, and the perfect storm. The slope into "I'm dead" usually doesn't start with that sentence. It starts with systems dimming. Severe melancholic depression is a common doorway. This isn't just sadness, it's a full-body slowdown, sleep fractured or excessive, appetite gone, speech sparse, movement heavy. Pleasure doesn't register. Thoughts circle nihilism. When valuation collapses, the world loses consequence. If nothing matters and nothing moves you, the feeling of aliveness thins until explanation hunts for something absolute. In that state, the body's interior broadcast gets quiet. Heartbeat whispers instead of thudding. Breath feels shallow and unimportant. Hunger shows up as a dry fact, not a tug. People describe waking like they've been scraped out and set back upright. Melancholic depression flips priors toward nothingness. The expectation that the next moment won't bring warmth or reward. That bias makes catastrophic interpretations easier to accept. "I'm dead" fits a landscape where every signal returns zero. Then there are neurological hits that swap subtle for sudden. A right parietal stroke can distort body maps and ownership, scrambling the anchor that says, "I'm in here." Temporal lobe seizures can flood or flatten familiarity, turning faces and places alien or eerily neutral. Frontal lobe tumors can quietly erode insight and valuation. Traumatic brain injury introduces noise into networks that coordinate interoception, salience, and self. In these cases, Cotard-like ideas don't rise from mood first. They bloom from misfire and loss. Then mood collapses around them. Infections bring their own chaos. Encephalitis inflames circuits that integrate feeling and meaning. Case reports document Cotard features during and after bouts of brain inflammation. Metabolic insults, thyroid storms, severe electrolyte shifts, hepatic encephalopathy muddy the brain's predictive balance. Even after an acute illness passes, the residual flatness can make nihilistic beliefs feel rational. The mind looks back over weeks of dulled life and concludes the simplest story: "I already left." You'll also see medication and substance links. Dopamine-blocking drugs can blunt reward and salience, especially in vulnerable brains. Rapid withdrawal, benzodiazepines, stimulants, can spike anxiety, derealization, and sleep collapse, priming the system for catastrophic interpretation. Cannabis, in high-potency forms, can trigger depersonalization in some users. For a few, that state ossifies under stress into darker certainty. None of these cause Cotard on their own in most people, but stack them on depression or neurological injury, and the floor drops faster. Age doesn't protect. Adolescents report DPDR after panic attacks, sleep deprivation, or weed, usually with preserved insight. Elderly patients with vascular changes, neurodegeneration, or strokes show higher rates of delusional misidentification, including Cotard. Middle-aged adults hit by severe melancholia can slide there too. Comorbidity with psychosis raises the risk that a strange feeling becomes an unshakable belief. Social isolation and sensory deprivation. No daylight, no touch, low movement, tighten the vice. Here's where timing matters. A young woman enters a major depressive episode after months of insomnia and work collapse. She stops eating, loses weight, and withdraws. Weeks later she says, "I don't need food, I don't exist." The depression set the stage. Starvation deepened interoceptive silence. The belief sealed it. In another ward, a man has a right hemisphere stroke. He starts by neglecting his left side, then reports his arm feels foreign. Days later, he murmurs to a nurse, "You're talking to a dead man." Different doors, same hallway. COVID-era stories added a layer. Some patients, after intensive care or long hypoxia, described lingering derealization and nihilistic thoughts. Most did not develop Cotard, but the pattern tracks. Inflammatory hits, disrupted sleep, isolation, flattened effect. The aliveness tag flickers under sustained stress. If life delivers months of muted signals, the brain may enthrone an explanation that fits the data, not the calendar. The perfect storm looks like this: a predisposed brain, history of mood disorder, trauma, or right hemisphere vulnerability, meets a trigger, severe depression, stroke, seizure, tumor, infection, metabolic chaos, or destabilizing medication shift. Add sleep loss, isolation, malnutrition, and pain. The interoceptive valuation loop drops, salience goes quiet, predictive error soars. Without quick correction, hydration, nutrition, structure, light medication, cognition moves in to settle the noise with the coldest narrative available. Stakes aren't theoretical. In the depressive path, mortality comes by neglect and suicide. In the neurological path, misidentification amplifies confusion and risk. Patients refuse care because the dead don't need dialysis, or pull out lines because tubes don't belong in corpses. Families plead, logic fails. The belief buys coherence at the price of survival. It's tempting to hunt for a single cause, a biomarker, a gene. Cotard rarely grants that. Etiologies are heterogeneous. Outcomes depend on how quickly the aliveness signal is restored. The common thread is less a lesion than a function. Disrupted integration of interoception, salience, and self-relevance. Different storms, same power outage. When feeling dies, belief moves in. That's the hinge. Treatments that work don't argue the story. They turn the lights back on. Inside the moment, micro-stories of conviction. Breakfast at 8:12 a.m. The egg cools while steam curls off the tea. Her pulse is visible at the wrist, soft, insistent. She watches it with mild curiosity, like it belongs to the table. The nurse says, "Take one sip." She answers, "Blood is dust." The phrase lands flat, not dramatic, like a weather report. She lifts the cup, pauses, sets it down. Tea is for the living. The nurse tries a different door. "For your brother." A brief blink, then the rule reasserts. Corpses don't drink. At 11:40, a volunteer wheels in a radio. Old boleros, a voice with gravel and light. The melody threads the room. Her shoulders almost shift. Then she tightens. That song isn't for me. She isn't rejecting taste. She's obeying ontology. The nurse asks, "What do you mean?" "I died last year," she says, calm as a clerk. The calendar on the wall says otherwise. Her body says otherwise. Her feeling system does not. 3 doors down, a mother arrives with flowers and a bag of oranges. The smell should collapse distance, sharp, sweet childhood kitchens. The daughter inhales, waits, shakes her head. "I can smell it," she says, "but it doesn't come here." She taps her chest. The mother leans in. "It's you." "I'm here." The daughter studies her face like a photograph. "You're kind," she says, "but you're visiting the dead." No sarcasm. A statement. The mother's hand lingers on her hair. The daughter doesn't flinch, she just doesn't warm. A corridor mirror catches her eye. Noon light over waxed floors. A figure stands, pale, unslept. She steps closer, examines the lips, the whites of the eyes, the slight asymmetry she's always had. She lifts a hand, the reflection follows. "That's a reflection of a dead person," she says. The nurse counters gently. "Dead people don't move." She nods. "Not like you think." The nurse hears the gap. Sensation isn't persuading belief, because sensation lacks weight. The mirror becomes evidence for a theory already chosen. Microstory. 3:17 p.m. Vitals check. The cuff inflates. The monitor prints numbers. She reads them, repeats them back, even comments. That's higher than yesterday. Function intact. Then, they're residual. Residual of what? Processes. She doesn't mean metaphor. She means leftover signals in a ruined system. The staff tries grounding. Name 3 blue things. Feel your feet. Sip cold water. She plays along and then explains, kindly, why corpses can cooperate. Late afternoon, a chaplain visits. Not to argue doctrine, to ask what the world feels like. She says, it's flat, like dust on glass. The chaplain asks where the she, who says that is located. A slow smile. There isn't a she. The chaplain nods and asks about the last time anything felt warm. A mango once, she says. When? Before. The chaplain doesn't chase time. He anchors to sensory memory. If I bring mango tomorrow? She tilts her head. You can try. It's not hope. It's permission to test the rule. Evening rounds, and the physician decides to reason through a narrow gap. If you're dead, explain this. He places her hand over her heart. The beat is undeniable. She listens. Reflex, she says. He asks, of whom?